It's time for another super zoom madness. And here we have the brand new OnePlus 15 going against the iPhone 17 Pro Max, the Galaxy S25 Ultra, and the Google Pixel 10 Pro XL to see which one performs best when we crank that zoom all the way up. As always, we'll be focusing on different categories such as people, objects, text, and we're even going to the moon. Our referee for this battle will be the mighty Nikon Coolpix P1000 over here. Hey, I'm Olive, your host here at Versus.com.
But before we throw all these photos in your face, we have to talk about zoom specs just for a second. Don't worry, we'll make this quick. Let's kick things off with the OnePlus 15. This guy is packing a 50 megapixel periscope telephoto with an f2.8 aperture and a 1/2.76 inch sensor, giving you 3.5 times optical zoom. Next up is the iPhone 17 Pro Max. It uses a 48 megapixel periscope telephoto with an identical f2.8 aperture, but a slightly bigger 1/2.55 inch sensor. It also pulls slightly ahead with 4 times optical zoom. The Galaxy S25 Ultra actually rocks a dual zoom setup, but we are only focusing on the big camera here, which is a 50 megapixel periscope telephoto with the narrowest aperture of the group at f3.4, but ironically, it has the largest sensor at 1/2.52 inches. It also zooms the furthest at 5 times. Finally, the Pixel 10 Pro XL looks almost identical to the iPhone on paper with an f2.8 aperture and a 1/2.55 inch sensor, but it matches the Galaxy with 5 times optical zoom. Now, digital zoom is a whole different story. The iPhone caps out at 40 times, while the Galaxy and the Pixel can hit 100 times. The OnePlus goes the distance at 120 times. To keep this a fair fight, we are cropping every shot to 120 times to see who actually has the best details at the limit. We'll be testing 3 specific levels, 10 times, 20 times, and 120 times. And of course, we'll be comparing every shot to our Nikon P1000 to see how close they get to the real deal.
Let's start off with objects. Different sizes, shapes, and distances is the perfect way to test out raw detail.
Starting at 10 times, the Pixel is the worst of the bunch, giving us an extremely cold white balance and some weird noise. The Galaxy takes the crown in this round with colors that look just like our Nikon and very natural sharpness. At 20 times, it's a similar story with the Pixel at the bottom and the Galaxy at the top. For those middle spots, we actually think the noisy shot from the iPhone looks better than the OnePlus, mostly because the OnePlus looks way too softened by AI. At a super close 120 times zoom, the iPhone is basically just a blob of noise. For the top spot, even though OnePlus is noisier, it's got better colors and doesn't completely erase the detail on Stitch's face like the Pixel does. Next, let's check out the Quadriga chilling on top of the Brandenburg Gate in Berlin. At 10 times zoom, OnePlus actually delivers the shot that looks the most like our Nikon, avoiding over-sharpening or heavy shadow lifting. When we push it further to 20 times, OnePlus is still our top pick, while the Pixel starts looking pretty blurry. But here is where it gets wild. At a crazy 120 times zoom, the Pixel is the absolute winner. As you probably guessed, it is using AI to imagine the missing details, and even if it's not 100% accurate, the result is honestly super convincing. So far the OnePlus is holding onto the lead with the other 3 trailing behind.
Next, text and signs. This is where the zoom gets really exposed. Real detail or AI illusion. If you can't read it, then the zoom is useless.
Let's zoom in on this sign at one of the most famous squares in Berlin. At 10 times zoom, both the OnePlus and the Pixel capture good detail, but OnePlus is very contrasty and the Pixel oversaturated. The iPhone nails it this time for us. At 20 times zoom, the iPhone goes from first to last with a super blurry mess. At that massive 120 times level, the iPhone stays in last place, while the Pixel slingshots to the top with a shot that looks almost exactly like our Nikon reference. Next, let's see which one of these phones can read the subliminal messages we wrote on this piece of paper. At 10 times, the Pixel is still struggling with some rough-looking shots, while the Galaxy looks remarkably similar to our Nikon. Moving to 20 times, OnePlus AI turns the text into some alien language, and the Pixel is once again super blurry, both landing at the bottom. The Galaxy takes the win again. Now at 120 times zoom, OnePlus is super noisy, and the AI basically left the chat after the word "hey," just like your crush did. The text on the Pixel is super sharp, but that emoji got absolutely nuked to oblivion. The iPhone is super noisy, but at least the text looks like it's from this planet. For us, the Galaxy is the best overall here. It's not perfect, but the emoji does look healthy. And hey, you better believe what we wrote on that paper. So in these two tests, the Galaxy got a huge lead over its rivals.
Now let's move on to people, faces, skin tones, even movement, all while zooming in from a far distance. That's usually where cameras tend to struggle. So let's see which one of these keeps people looking realistic, and if any of them turn people into pixels.
Well, here at 10 times zoom, the Galaxy just could not give us a clear shot, no matter how many times we tried. The iPhone, on the contrary, looks natural without any heavy contrast or over sharpening. At 20 times, the Pixel ends up looking straight up deep fried. Again, the iPhone shows a good level of sharpness without going overboard. But at 120 times, honestly, everyone just fails with either weird colors or sketchy textures. The only one that is remotely okay is the iPhone, again, but it's definitely not a work of art. Now, let's go full paparazzi on our scriptwriter, Ezzy. At 10 times zoom, you can see again that the Galaxy just cannot stabilize the shot, while the OnePlus looks the best since it doesn't lift the shadows as much as the iPhone. At the 20 times level, OnePlus totally flips and just over-processes the life out of the photo. This time, the iPhone takes the lead. Sure, it is blurry, but at least it isn't ultra-sharpened like the rest of them. Once again, at 120 times, that AI magic just says, "Not my problem," and leaves the OnePlus and Pixel with some really cooked shots. The iPhone is super soft, but we can at least say it looks better. However, the Galaxy, even though it is visibly over-sharpened, actually preserves more of Ezzy's facial features. So apparently human faces are the ultimate weakness for these AI algorithms. Sarah Connor really could have used that info back in the day. We have pretty low scores in this round, but still, the iPhone somehow managed to come out on top. But wait, we have one more scenario to review.
Night shots, low level, heavy zoom levels, zero margin for errors. But can these phones handle it? Let's find out.
Straight away, it is clear that this is a brutal scenario since even our Nikon struggled here. But to be fair, all the phones also did. The Galaxy is easily the worst of the bunch, having more grain than a double espresso. Things definitely do not get any better at 20 times zoom. All of them either have a super off white balance or just tons of noise and weird textures. As you might expect, 120 times zoom is just bad. There is absolutely no detail in any of these, and whatever is going on with the pixel processing makes me look straight up evil. So let this be a lesson that zooming into people is just rough, whether it is during the day or night. And hey, what happens if you zoom into the moon?
Amid, our Nikon just ran out of battery. How inconvenient. But hey, since we're already here, let's check out at least how these phones capture the moon.
As it turns out, only the OnePlus can, or at least that is what OnePlus wants you to believe, because it is technically impossible for a phone to capture a better photo than NASA themselves. What is actually happening is that OnePlus detects you're trying to snap the moon and just slaps a photo overlay on top of it. As simple as that. And while we all agree it is totally fake, it is not a bad photo per se, especially since the others look like you just took a picture of a lamp on your ceiling. At 20 times zoom, the Pixel starts to show some detail, but the shot still isn't as good as the OnePlus. However, at 120 times zoom, everyone decided to play the OnePlus game and slap a moon texture on there. But to be fair, OnePlus and the Pixel do it the best. Still, nobody gets perfect points because they are all faking it. Sorry, not sorry. So to crown our Zoom champion, let's do a quick recap. Our first category was all about objects, and the undisputed winner there was OnePlus. For signs and text, the Galaxy was actually the king of the hill. So now you know which one to grab if you need to read a menu from across the street. When it comes to people, the iPhone secured a win over the rest, even if it wasn't exactly perfect. But at night, even though the scores totally tanked for everyone, OnePlus somehow came out on top again. So putting all these numbers together, sitting in fourth place, we have the Pixel 10 Pro XL. We were honestly expecting a bit more from it, especially with Google hyping up that ProRes zoom. However, there is a catch with this phone, and we will get to that in just a second. In third place, we have the iPhone 17 Pro Max. To be fair, it delivered the most natural looking photos without having to lean on aggressive AI sharpening that makes everything look like a cartoon. That means the overall winner of our zoom challenge is the OnePlus 15. This really came down to the fact that the OnePlus AI starts adding detail into the shots at a much lower zoom level than the competition, which helped it big time. Coming in at second place is the Galaxy S25 Ultra. It barely held onto the runner-up spot because the iPhone was right on its tail. This really goes to show that Samsung needs to start focusing on actual hardware upgrades instead of just leaning on software every single year. So those are the total scores. But look, we know not everyone is zooming to 120 times in their daily lives. So let's break it down by zoom level. If you're mostly shooting at 10 times, OnePlus was the best. For those 20 times shots, the Galaxy actually takes the crown, though the iPhone was super close. And finally, at the maximum zoom level, the Pixel is actually the best overall, so that ultra-res zoom actually makes a difference. But unfortunately, it only kicks in at those crazy high levels, which puts it at a disadvantage for the rest of the test. So what do you think? Do you actually use the telephoto lens on your phone that much? Definitely let us know in the comments below. And before you go get ready for the holidays, don't forget to give us a big thumbs up and hit subscribe, as we're always testing new devices to help you make the best choice. We'll see you in our next video, and until then, take care.